I was there with Mark, my husband of 3 years, to find him a suit for his promotion, but as we wandered through the aisles of luxury, I noticed Alex, the store consultant, who had a charm that seemed to pull at the very fabric of my being. His gaze locked with mine, igniting a spark that I thought had long been extinguished. In that brief moment, a storm of desire and confusion brewed within me, leading to a decision that would unravel everything. What happened next would change our lives forever. My name is Cindy, and I felt a shift in the air as soon as I walked through the gleaming glass doors of the new upscale department store. My name is Cindy, and at the age of 26, it felt like my life and my husband Mark had found a comfortable rhythm. I had been married to Mark, a good-hearted man with a steady career as an accountant, for 3 years. I believed that our relationship was based on love and respect for one another, so today we decided to break the routine by discovering this new world of upscale goods and first-rate customer service, which included personal shopping. Consultants, the store was a maze of luxury, with each aisle promising something special and unique. Mark, the practical one, was less excited, but he smiled at my eagerness, and his eyes reflected a warmth that had always made me feel secure as we wandered through the store. A personal shopping consultant came up to us. She was elegant, her demeanor as polished as the marble floors we walked on, and she introduced herself with a name that I forgot as soon as it entered. But her presence was captivating. She offered to lead us through the store, promising to find items that would not only suit our tastes, but also elevate them. We followed her, our footsteps echoing in the store's vast, echoing space, as the consultant led us to a section filled with opulent clothing, her fingers touching the fabrics with a reverence. Normally reserved, Mark seemed intrigued by her, his eyes lingering for a moment too long. I felt a twinge of something unfamiliar, a slight unease, but I dismissed it, attributing it to the novelty of the situation. The store was packed with people, but the atmosphere was serene, almost serene, with soft classical music playing in the background. Mark and I were walking down the aisles, our hands occasionally brushing against one another in a silent testament to our bond. As we got closer to the men's section, we were looking for a new suit for Mark to wear to his impending promotion ceremony. Alex, a youthful retail consultant, drew my attention. With his keen features, Alex even from a distance, Mark noticed my smile and said, "Let's see if he can help us find something nice." We walked over and Alex greeted us with a warm, professional smile. As Alex turned to lead us, something unexpected happened. For a brief moment, there was a spark, an electric charge that seemed to dance between us. I felt my heart skip a beat, a sensation I hadn't felt in years. Alex's gaze lingered. He had dark hair and exuded confidence while helping another customer. I was temporarily engrossed in the intensity of his gaze for just a little too long. Mark was already talking to Alex about fabric options, unaware of this quiet exchange. "I'm thinking something classic, maybe a navy blue," he continued, his voice bringing me back to the present. Alex returned with a nod of professionalism and guided us to a rack of suits. "Let's see what we have here," he remarked in a smooth and welcoming voice before removing a suit and pressing it against Mark with his hands in an almost too close position. I observed a range of feelings circulating inside of me while I walked. Alex guided us to a room with custom suits while outlining the newest styles and characteristics of the fabric. In a moment of audacity motivated by a combination of curiosity and desire, Alex's knowledge was astounding, and his attention to detail was meticulous as he measured marks for a suit. I found myself observing him more than the clothing because there was an unmistakable attraction, a magnetic pull that I hadn't felt in a long time. The air seemed to freeze as I stretched out and touched Alex below the waist, directly in front of Mark. I never could have guessed what happened next, as Mark's expression changed from bewilderment to incredulity, and Alex's eyes widened in shock. Alex temporarily retreated from his professionalism. He cleared his throat, his face flushed a deep shade of red, shaken by my sudden advance. "I believe we need a moment." His voice was barely audible above a whisper, and he turned to face me with a look that was now a mixture of hurt and rage. "Cindy, what are you doing?" His voice was quiet, but I could feel the displeasure. My pulse was racing, and I felt a wave of guilt. "I apologize, Mark. I'm not sure what happened to me." I felt like my words weren't enough. In contrast to the seriousness of the issue, the ensuing silence seemed suffocating and thick. Regaining his composure, Alex excused himself to allow us some time and said, "I'll be right back." His voice was calm now, but he avoided looking into my eyes. As we stood there, the distance between us seemed to grow. "Why, Cindy? Why here? Why now?" His voice shook, not out of rage, but with a hurt. That pierced me. "Mark, I was simply overwhelmed. It's not an excuse. I know I'm really sorry, but my apology seemed like a weak attempt to fix something that might already be beyond repair. We need to talk about this. Cindy isn't here right now, but soon." Mark groaned and slumped his shoulders. His words were either a promise or maybe a heads-up for the inevitable argument that would start when Alex got back. The store around us carried on with business as usual, unaware of the drama playing out in our little corner. Alex collected, himself stepped back, and returned to his professionalism. "I think we should continue with the fitting," he said, his voice steady but his eyes avoiding mine. But Mark just stood there, his face unreadable, and he didn't move or say anything. He just watched as I leaned in to kiss Alex, a quick but seemingly endless kiss, motivated by an impulse I couldn't describe. The stillness was oppressive, and Alex pushed away, gazing between Mark and me. He was obviously uncomfortable, and then he cleared his throat, speaking just above a whisper. In the middle of the lavish commotion of the store, he managed to mumble, "I think I need some air," and then swiftly left, leaving Mark and me alone. Mark's eyes were on me, a storm building inside of them. "Cindy." What was that low voice that was a mixture of confusion and hurt? "I don't know, Mark, but I made a mistake in a moment of rage, and even to my own ears my words sounded weak." I felt my heart drop as the weight of my actions pressed down on me. Mark inhaled deeply. I wanted to reach out and touch him to reassure him, but I refrained because I knew it might not be welcomed. His gaze is now shifting to the suits hanging around us as if searching the fabric for answers. "This isn't like you, Cindy. We've always been honest with one another." "What's changed?" Mark nodded slowly, his face a mask of sorrow, but I never intended for it to come out this way. "I've been feeling restless, Mark, like something's missing." But his voice was firm, and he made a decision. I nodded, feeling my eyes prickle with tears. "Yes, not here. Let's head home." As we left the store, the cool air seemed very different from the stuffy environment inside. The drive home was quiet. Between us, the sound of the car's engine fills the silence. I snuck a quick look at Mark's hard-lined profile. His gaze remained focused on the road ahead, the weight of my deeds hanging over us like a black cloud, and the stillness was even more deafening once we were inside our house. Mark dropped his keys on the table with a clatter, and the sound reverberated in the silence. He turned to face me, his eyes searching mine for answers I wasn't sure I could give. "Cindy, what are you doing?" he asked in a low voice that wasn't angry, but rather with genuine confusion that pierced my heart. I had no answer, at least not one that would make sense or ease the hurt I saw in his eyes. Instead, I turned away, my mind racing back to Alex, in the store. There was something about him that drew me in, and I couldn't resist a desire that had lain dormant for too long in the privacy of our bedroom, hidden by the evening's shadows. I replayed the moment in my mind, the feel of Alex's lips, the fleeting but intense connection, It was all too real and all-consuming, and I found myself moving towards Mark out of a combination of defiance and a desperate need for anything to fill the void. I realized that what I was doing was now completely going too far into infidelity. Mark didn't push me away or embrace me back. Instead, he stood there as a silent witness to my betrayal. The room felt colder, the air thick with the consequences of my actions that were about to unfold, and the silence stretched heavy with unsaid words and unsaid questions. I pulled Mark into an embrace in the hopes of finding comfort or perhaps forgiveness in his arms, but as I looked into his eyes, I saw not the warmth I was used to, but rather a mask of shock and hurt. It seemed as though the cosmos was working together to break up this moment of reunion, and I could feel the gap between us growing and the trust we had developed over the years now hanging by a thread as the doorbell sounded, slicing through the tension. Mark looked away from me, and I saw a flash of bewilderment in his eyes as he struggled to comprehend what had just transpired. However, the doorbell's chime appeared to provide a momentary reprieve from our looming conflict, and we both remained there. The echo of that unexpected sound now fills the space between us. Mark finally moved his steps heavy as he walked towards the door. I followed, my heart pounding with a mix of dread and relief at the interruption. He opened the door, and there stood our neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, with her usual cheerful demeanor holding a casserole dish. "I thought you two might like some dinner tonight," she said, her voice a stark contrast to the heavy atmosphere inside our home. Mark forced a smile. "Thank you, Mrs. Thompson, that's very kind of you.